We are all prisoners. Things couldn't get much worse. I've had it up to here. You know your end is near. Well, have you had enough? You'll get what you deserve. When all is said and done, I'll be the one to leave you in your misery and hate what you've become. If y'all know which song that is, good on you. And if y'all don't know, y'all need to go back and listen to songs because, oh my god, that song is pretty good. But hey guys, what's going on? Lucky Cheese 7 is back again to give you guys another My Hero Academia podcast. Yeah, so soon after season 5, which actually was something I wasn't really planning on doing, but hey, the arc is now officially done, and I said, you know, when this arc does get finished, it's going to be a really interesting talk, and obviously, y'all know the basic drill at this point. It was just me. Be dull, wouldn't be a lot of fun. So I roped in some peeps here. Now, you've seen these people before when it comes to my discussions, but 2 of them have been a part of My Hero Academia podcasts, but they haven't been a part of the manga podcasts. So I'll go ahead and let them do the introductions themselves.
Seen us? No one's ever seen us. They've only seen you. And they might have seen me if they head on over to the JamesSCassidy channel.
And I have a face for podcasts, so, you know.
That's it, and I guess that I'm the only one that's no one's seen. But hello, everyone. BlueStarSaber here, once again to join Lucky Chi for another My Hero Academia discussion.
And I'm lkmnjh, also known as Steve.
And I'm JamesSCassidy, who's too hot to handle, too cold to hold, but here we are now.
Also, when it comes to Blue, he is our resident cursed child.
Every time! Even in the arcs you like! Every time!
Our resident punching bag known as the cursed child, known as LemonStarSaber, but also known as Mr. Wikipedia.
Oh, do you have to go with every nickname people who call me on this channel?
I'm pretty sure Steve has another one.
Hey, I was gonna call him the Anti-Midas, where everything he touches turns to crap.
Oh, that's a good one.
My life
Love you, Blue.
It's okay, Blue. We know you're the Bakugo in the group. It's okay.
Shut up! Die! 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 Die!
Hey, better to be Bakugo than to be Squidward.
Fair point.
Because remember from the Krusty Krab training video, no one wants to be a Squidward.
For those of y'all that have heard the other manga podcasts we've done, pretty much reading back to the internship arc, setup's pretty simple. It's expectations on the arc, after following up with what happened before, and then our thoughts on the arc, going into positive and negatives. Predominantly, we also do rankings of the arcs too, but since we're in the final act saga, I had to alter that around. So instead, I'm having it shortened down to just best moments, missed opportunity, where it could have improved, and also just predictions for the next arc and closing thoughts. So that's essentially the gist of the mill when it comes to the My Hero Academia manga podcast in and of itself. For those of you that are new, long-time people, y'all know how this works.
My Hero Academia, one more day.
Oh my god. Please.
Please, no. Great. Now that you said it, it's going to happen. You just had to put it out there.
Right.
Now, all for one is going to be the Mephisto, who's going to want the love of Ochako and Izuku because they're so pure.
Congratulations, James. You've jinxed the series. We should now call you Mr. Jinx.
Or change my name to Blue Star.
Hey, what's my trademark? Okay, actually, I don't have it trademarked, so.
No, you're right. Your trademark belongs to Harry Potter since they have the cursed child name on there. So,
That's the nickname you gave me.
well, technically, the people in the comments called you cursed, so we just rolled with it.
Pretty much.
This is true.
Damn you people in the comments! Why did you do this to me?
The people have spoken.
Get that traitor Parker in there and lock him into an exclusive deal. They want Spider-Man, we'll give him Spider-Man.
Blue Star is the touch of the podcast. Lucky Cheese the brains of the podcast. Steve is the heart of the podcast, and I'm the face of the podcast.
Pretty much.
What's more life?
Filler.
Okay, and what about Margarita, who sadly could not be here tonight?
He's the appendix of the podcast.
Ouch.
They're gonna kill us when they listen.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
In a good way. Kill us in a good way.
See, kids, this is what real friendship is like.
You're right. Not this. Yeah, sorry. Which we'll get into that later.
You should kill yourself. Okay.
But yeah, y'all basically know who we are. So let's go ahead and get into expectations, which in this case is a little interesting because it's going to be our initial thoughts coming off from the Rise of the Villain Saga. Now, I'll actually have James start us off since I know predominantly this is your kind of like with the season 5 podcast. This is actually your first podcast with the manga side of things. So, what was your take going into this arc after coming out from the Paranormal Liberation War?
Oh. I mean, it just put me in front of a firing squad, why don't you guys? Thanks. Y'all just standing behind me. I'm like, all right. Okay, so as you know, I came into the series kicking and screaming. And I'm going to leave the series kicking and screaming at this point. But, I mean, I have to say, I'm very interested. To me, the series kept getting better and better and better. I'm not saying that this series was flawless, but every page turn, I was like, what happens next? What's going to happen? What is Deku going to do? Oh my god, look at this. Oh, look at this villain. Oh, so I was like, I want to see where it goes, and every page flip, I was just excited to see what was going to happen. So going into this one, I was like, it was like my first reaction when Peter Parker first got the symbiote suit.
Yeah.
It was that same reaction. I was like, oh my god, here we go. Things are about to kick up a notch.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just been exciting to read, and it did not disappoint. I can't really say much without spoiling it.
Fair enough.
And I don't really want to be a big spoiler heavy. Well, we'll talk about it, but
Fair enough. Steve, what about you? I know you've been actually. No, this is your first manga podcast too. So, what's been your take on the manga, and specifically, like, let's say, since the end of the Rise of the Villain Saga, if you will?
Well, as soon as let's see, this started way back in 307, I think, right? 308 or no, 307.
307 is when this arc started, but 306 is when the last one ended.
In many ways,
so with 307, I'll say this much: as soon as the quote-unquote Dark Deku came into action, you know, saving that kid and him surrounded by this steam and whatnot, it's like, ooh, all right. Taking things a little edgy. It's not a trope that hasn't been done before. Let's see what kind of things you might end up doing with this. And coming off from the previous arc, it's a really good way to get especially since this is the first part of the final part of the story as a whole. And God, that's a mouthful. First part of the final part. So if you really wanted, if you really wanted to get a super late comer into the manga, it's like if this doesn't get you in, then nothing will.
Pretty much.
Oh! Sorry. Making a joke at my expense.
But and him showing up there, for those first couple of chapters, we didn't have an explanation as to why he's in his new this form. There's just this mysterious aura around him, like, ooh, he's sort of edgy. It's covering his face. His eyes are meaner. There's more shadows, more dark lines to him. Kind of this nitty-gritty, Frank Miller-esque noir kind of style going for him. And for those of you listening in, I'm kind of sort of a Frank Miller fan. I do, I kind of support him up until Sin City, but that's a whole nother can of worms over there. But his art, though, those is from his early years up until Sin City, it's pretty good. And so when I first saw Deku in that form, it's like, ooh, this is really, for me personally, that's a really good way to get me invested into this arc. And those were my initial thoughts.
I mean, the cover art was pretty ominous.
What about you, Blue? What was your initial thoughts coming off from well, okay, let's say both the Paranormal Liberation War and the Rise of the Villain Saga as a whole?
Well, for me, the Paranormal Liberation arc, I think, rejuvenated My Hero Academia. I mean, I was still enjoying it, but it wasn't like with the first saga, after, like, it had a few ups and downs and all that stuff. But then the war arc for the Paranormal War arc happened for My Hero and Academia. And for the longest time, it seems like for once, a shonen manga was able to do a good war arc after such a long time, if you will. So there was that, because, well, we know the big three, well, at least Naruto, Bleach, failed in their war arcs in the long term, but here,
let's be fair on the Bleach side of things. The first half, I even argue, like, say,
but in the end, it kind of failed in the end, but that's what I'm going on about. But yeah. Let's see. Granted, there are some other arcs that could be considered war arcs, depending on who you ask, that were in current ongoing shonen mangas, and ones have recently completed. But for here, it felt like the first time they've done a war that felt like it generally felt like that was generally good, and let's see, in many ways had the benefit of not being the final arc. Instead, having a proper aftermath in which Deku leaving the UA Academy, which I never thought was that Kohei would ever do, but he ended up doing it, and yeah, it definitely recaught my interest because it makes you wonder how long he's going to leave and all that stuff. So is this going to be like for an arc, maybe for the entire saga, halfway the saga or something? So that's what I was thinking about. At the very least, we know that, Deku would probably recounter many of these old villains that he was facing, since many of them escaped from Tartarus, such as Muscular, Overhaul, and Stain. Oh, and I guess Moonfish, or, the teeth guy that Bakugo, Shoto, and Todoroki fought. So, I assume that, we'd see them all in some form and all that stuff, but yeah. But as long as all these new villains that we have not seen before that have also escaped Tartarus, which in many ways allows Kohei to build up the possibility of introducing more new characters for our heroes to face and all that stuff. Which is one thing I've kind of noticed with shonen manga. The longer they go, the series go, and they don't replace their villains, organically, it tends to be a bit of a problem in the long haul. when they have 2 little villains left for the heroes to face.
Hashtag the 4th Great Ninja War.
To an extent, yes, that's one example, but yeah.
Hashtag The Force Awakens.
That one too.
But yeah, so let's see. So pretty much, I figured we are going to probably get like at least an entire arc of maybe Midoriya on his own, and then perhaps maybe an arc where we get with Class 1A catching up and see what they're being doing while Midoriya's going out there being a sort of vigilante, if you will, while let's see, doing all the more heavy plot stuff, and then Class 1A would be more like perhaps dealing with like the aftermath and stuff in the school thing, because pretty much it's like, let's see, one this thing was clear was that we're getting some aftermath of the war arc, and and I expect this was going to be the arc to do it, where Midoriya is like beginning his solo journey and all that stuff. That's what I expected.
Gotcha. Well, I guess that brings it down to me. So, if y'all know the history of at least the manga side of things for My Hero, y'all know when it came to the Rise of the Villains arc, especially early on. Okay, provisional license exam for the most part, I did enjoy. I actually really liked that arc. First half of the internship arc was good. And as far as the manga side of things, because the anime kind of fixed this, but the second half kind of dragged on for me. Again, not a bad arc, but it did drag on. And then Culture Festival I thought was nice. I know that's not everyone's cup of tea, but I personally enjoyed that one. Pro Hero was pretty good. And then the thing that I can't say it's not the series that broke me. It wasn't the One More Day or the Clone Saga for me, but it did put me off from live reacting to the chapters, which was essentially the joint training arc.
I think the term you're looking for is base breaker.
Yeah, there we go. That's the right word I want to use. Yeah, the base breaker for me was the joint training arc, and I remember because when the joint training arc was going on, like there was like a big gap in between me doing like my thoughts on chapters, which I never did before. Yeah, there had been occasions where I would like catch up to do my thoughts on chapters and whatnot. Like maybe I wouldn't review certain chapters like right away. I'd wait like a day or two. But joint training arc took a while before I jumped back in. And then when I got to the end of it, I was like I didn't feel the same passion that I did for My Hero, like in the UA beginnings saga once we got to the end of the joint training arc. And I was like, you know what? I just need a bit of a time before I feel like I'm ready to jump back into My Hero. And I did say that maybe at some point I could jump back in. It just all depends on where we go post joint training. And then, you got the Metal Liberation Army arc, which still to this day is my biggest regret of not reacting to any of the chapters because woo, that arc was good for Shigaraki side of things. What else did we have? Pro Hero arc, not Pro Hero arc, Endeavor Agency arc. Again, pretty good because you get more into Endeavor family side of things, getting to learn more about Shoto's brother and sister, learn more about Toya, which funny enough because that gets paid off, and the Paranormal War. But finally getting to that point, when I heard we were going to getting another war arc, that's where I was cautious because kind of like with what Blue explained, we had the 4th Great Ninja War, we had Bleach, which I guess for the most part 2/3 of it were good, but then the last third he kind of got rushed because Kubo was worried that he was going to die before he got on the series, so I got that. Then you had Attack on Titan, which again up until the last 5 chapters pretty good, but then nope. The only other war arc I could think of that actually did do a pretty good job was Rave Master. That war arc was, for the most part, pretty good.
What about Gintama's walk?
That one was good too. I know some people want to lump in Full Metal Alchemist with its war arc, but that one's debatable if you could call that a war. But if you want to count that as one, that one was good too. So I was actually... Huh?
There's also Black Clover and the final arc for Demon Slayer, Saigon.
Again, Black Clover's a bit debatable, but Demon Slayer, yeah, I could do that one too. That one was pretty good. But no, when it came to the war arc itself, I was kind of apprehensive about it, and I was super cautious because, and I told Blue this, depending on how the war arc goes will determine if I come back to live reacting to my hero. And boy, when you get to 306, like I went from being like, okay, I'm kind of getting back into it to 306. You had Deku leave. I was like, okay, now my interest in my hero is kind of like rejuvenated back to where it was early on. So
I think it also helped that you kind of needed this after a certain manga ended in April.
yeah, I needed it after that for sure. But
I have an interesting question.
What's up?
So I had no faith in this series. I've expressed in the last one that I have had no faith in this series, or I had, very little faith, because I was very cynical about the series, and I've come to enjoy this series. Let me ask you guys, for the last arcs before this one, what we've been talking about, how much do you feel it felt like it was padded?
How
and
much
what I mean
was padded?
And what I mean by that is, for those people who don't understand from us listening, is to make a comparison. Naruto, we all expected Naruto and Sasuke to fight, but in between that, from the point that they last met to like the Kage Summit arc to the ending, everything felt kind of padded, like that you were just stalling for the inevitable.
Yeah.
How much do you guys felt that these past arcs have been like a padding, like you're kind of just stalling the inevitable at this point?
I was going to say there's two examples I could think of. I think the overhaul arc, for the most part, like at least once they got to the base. The second they got to the base for the manga side of things is where I felt like it was kind of padded out, and then I felt it was a similar case for the joint training arc. Those are like the two examples I could think of.
I think, let's see, the two biggest cases people might say is, let's see, for me at least, that might be considered padding, though Lucky she might get a bit upset when I say this, might be the cultural festival arc, since outside of like trying to get Eri-chan to rid of her demons and all that stuff, and Midoriya learning a new move, it feels like the most fillerish arc, though granted, if Gentle appears later on in the series, I think that'll probably put some more merit to it, but
here's the thing, though. I can at least understand that, because so far it does, like, it's cool to see what Deku was able to do, but that does feel a little bit of, say, like a side story-ish type of arc, but
yeah,
And
the other one I can think of is, granted, Lucky Chi will probably find this ironic for me, given how I defended this arc in the past, is the joint training one, due to the fact that majority of the battles there could be considered like filler, even though it was the only time in the, let's see, Saga you could have like the members of Class 1A showing off.
You mean round two? Round two.
Well, round two in particular, I think, is probably the most fillerish battle. Round one I can understand because, well, you want to show off Shinso's like new skills to why he could be dangerous against the rematch with Midoriya. While with like rounds 3 and 4, you've got like Shoto and Eden the third round and see what they can do. In many ways, it's also one of the few arcs in the second saga which Ida played a bit of a role in and all that stuff.
Well, you also got to take this into account, Blue. The other problem when it came to the joint training arc, because it was also the time when we weren't getting that many pages.
Yeah.
For my hero, so it was like.
It also had the benefit of like the third round building up the leading up to like more on the Todoroki family dynamics when you got like Shoto trying to learn this new move that apparently his brother Toya could do. You know, the first mention of the name Toya. And then round 4 was pretty quick, to be fair. Had some nice character development with Bakugo a bit with some of the members of Class 1A. That's leading up to eventually lead up to this arc we're currently discussing, but Yeah, and then of course Midoriya with Shincho, and then learning a bit more about All for One, which ended up being the base breaker.
What do you think,
Also-
Steve?
Yeah, I was gonna say, Steve, you've been a little quiet about this.
Honestly, I mean, compared to, let's say, the final arc of Naruto, most of what, at least what I read up until this point, I didn't feel like there was padding. Like Lucky Chi said, there was a lot less pages to work with,
Yeah,
and I think I think in terms of creative writing, I mean, that's a double-edged sword right there.
Mhm.
On the one hand, less pages means less things to work with, but on the other hand, it's kind of like, okay, so you're being asked to produce a TV show. You got 40 minutes worth of content. You need to cut it down to 22. What can you cut out that'll still make the story cohesive enough to understand?
right.
And I think that's one of this manga's greatest strengths is that the author, with the shortened amount of pages that he's working with, it allows the fights. Well, it allows everything really to be much faster paced than what we're normally used to. Now, on the downside of things, that's like, just because it's faster paced doesn't necessarily mean it makes it a good story. And true enough, I wish there were more slice of life moments sort of things sprinkled here and there. Like, I don't know, maybe we see a couple more instances of, let's say, Midoriya helping an old lady cross the street, stuff like that. And that's what I give the movies props for, that they're able to showcase that kind of thing. Unlike in the anime where, yeah, there's some bits of filler here and there, but it's not substantial. It's not,
Do you mean like kind of like moments where you see like Endeavor like save someone from a truck being plowed or
yeah,
something like
much.
that?
Yeah. Because, again, this double-edged sword thing. On the one hand, it's kind of unnecessary to the story you're telling, and you want to keep the plot moving along as best as you can. On the other hand, it's kind of nice to see things like that, because it makes your world feel more alive, if that makes any sense.
No, I completely no, I understand you. It's kind of like and I can't believe I'm going to make this reference. Y'all remember Duke Nukem Forever?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If y'all ever played the game, you remember the strip club?
Yeah.
It was just kind of, there was really no shooting or anything. It was just kind of a point and click, find kooky things to do and play around with the environment.
Yeah.
Kind of, yeah. I'm
Yeah.
thinking of something like that, where you can like sit down, almost like playing your favorite game, and there's just moments where you don't need to be in combat. You're just kind of like talking to people, interacting with stuff, and it's always nice to see characters like behave in a natural state, so you understand like what are they comfortable with versus what's going to be a threat. And if you have people experience threat nonstop, then you're like, okay, well, what are they like when there's no threats?
Yeah, or like a scenario like let's bring up Final Fantasy in this situation. So, like whenever you're like not exactly like in like the battle sequences of like the story, you're just like in the shelter and you're just interacting with like all the civilians and whatnot. Like right before you tackle like the main story beat, like you have the little section where you're in the shelter and you're like kind of like just interacting with people to get their thoughts on it. Like those kind of things I think are pretty cool to see. And I do think little instances like that, like Steve mentioned, were kind of missing in the manga. Definitely.
It's good to get to the point, but every now and then you need to slow down and enjoy the characters for what they are.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like that Christmas episode that I really like in the anime.
That was a pretty good one.
That was pretty nice, and it was nice to see these characters be who they are. Because at the end of the day, these are still kids.
They are
trying to be heroes. So it's always nice to let them be kids for once, because they have to face the world eventually.
Yeah, I mean, even like if we're bringing, and it's funny because it is technically a superhero based story, but even if you take, say, like Spider-Man into account, like there is stuff going on outside of like say his hero life, say whether it's with Aunt May or MJ.
Yeah, and it reminds us, the viewers, whether you watch the anime or read the manga or anything, that there's a reason why they fight. There's a reason that the things that they do is what they're fighting for. And I think that's a big difference between filler and or what I call padding and like just essential storytelling.
Mhm.
Yeah, we can have like tons of moments of Deku training or tons of moments of the students fighting in school or anything like that. You know, we've done it 3 times already, basically. But
Yeah.
just seeing the characters be who they are in the downtime and not have a worry in the world, it makes what they're fighting for even more special. And when you have villains that come in and want to destroy that or control that or even, you know, just take away any of that because they believe that what they're offering is much better, it really makes it impactful for the characters to fight for what they believe in.
I think that's a good way to put it.
In many ways, you're saying that some of those arcs, like the Culture Festival, was needed to show the peacetime that the heroes have established and what the villains were trying to destroy and all that stuff.
In a way, yeah. I mean, it's kind of a cross between agreeing with Lucky and you, Blue, and that, yeah, in some people's eyes, it can be seen as kind of a padding, but in a way, it's kind of a good padding, because you get to see how these characters are in their natural state.
It also allows for some slow build-up Bond moments, which can pay off later.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
like especially and I've already told you this before, Blue, but I think you needed the Culture Festival arc, especially for Eri, because I know the biggest thing when it came to that arc was like it kind of centered around. Well, and I guess now in retrospect, yeah, it is Deku and Miria, who are kind of like the shining lights for Eri, but it is kind of one of those things where you didn't really get so much of a building bond between Eri and Deku in that arc, but I think the Culture Festival works in that case where you do get to see that bond, if you will, between him and Eri.
Fair enough.
I was just curious because we've all seen a lot of series where, you know, we're kind of like bored with what they're going with, and we're like, get to the point already. And then there's some series where like we kind of wish they just explored who these people are to identify with them. I mean, what's it like to be a kid with a quirk that could potentially lead you to be a superhero? That's what made Spider-Man so successful, is because he was a teenager that got powers out of nowhere and tried to use them to gain fame and the girl he loves and money and everything like that. And he realized, you know, with great power comes great responsibility, which means that, you know, you just can't be, you know, if you try to go for selfish goals, then all you're going to end up with is just being alone.
Essentially, you could also say that was also the case with the younger X-Men, like the original team, Kitty Pryde, etc.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially the deep lore behind Cyclops.
Oh, definitely.
I mean, that's a character that just gets crapped on the entire series. And then people wonder why, you know, he has so many issues with his life. It's like, well, you keep putting him through this crap.
That, and also, well, let's say a lot of X-Men writers seem to favor Wolverine.
Oh, God, don't remind me.
Well, and and if we're looking at the MCU, look at Thor. Like, shit happens to him a lot. Like,
yeah. Let me just say, at least in defense of Cyclops, there's a reason why he's the leader of the X-Men.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just say that there's a reason, and if you know the story as much as I do, or as anybody does, if they've been a Marvel fan, there's a definitive reason why Cyclops, as unhinged as he can be, is still the leader of the X-Men, because out of all the crap that has ever done to him, he's still the most stable. Like, all the other X-Men couldn't handle the crap that Cyclops goes through, and they continue to put him through that crap.
From my understanding, last I checked with Cyclops, he was dead. Am I understanding, or has he been brought back to life
again?
But then again, I haven't read the X-Men comics.
I know. I just remembered when Jean Grey was brought back again for like the 100th time. Let's see, Cyclops was dead.
I mean, Cyclops has been dead like 6 times now. Jesus.
Right?
Boy.
Who hasn't died is Wolverine, and when he does die, he's not officially dead.
You mean because they replaced him with Old Man Logan?
Yeah, pretty much. Like how they encased him in kryptonite, or not kryptonite,
Antimantium.
adamantium, and then they're like, oh, well, like he died here, and it's like, well, no, not really, psych.
That's the one downside of comic books with the deaths, is that they never really last.
Then we got My Hero.
Yep.
So anyway, I suppose we went off a bit off topic on this thoughts on the art. The expectations and thoughts on the art.
Okay, yes and no, but it is a good comparison that James brought up. So I think it's warranted.
Well, especially since the author of My Hero took heavy influence from the MCU, so or Marvel Comics, I guess. Not MCU, but Marvel Comics. So
mix of Marvel and maybe a few Star Wars references.
Deku Man does whatever a Deku can.
No, legit. If I end up finding out in an interview that he just got the 6 quirks just to make Deku more like Spider-Man, I'll be like, all right, that's fine.
For life, you're still wrong about that.
Oh, it's going to be, if Fallout ever comes back, it's going to be very interesting to see you two discuss.
I know. When he does, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. That's the big key thing. When he comes back, that discussion alone is going to be. I'm going to let all our viewers in on this. Get your popcorn ready. Get your popcorn ready. Get your drinks ready. Because you'll be in for what will be either the Captain America Civil War or Batman vs. Superman. Take your picks. You'll have 2 sides, and you have to pick one.
Which one am I?
That's where I'll let you decide.
I'll go with Captain America, I guess.
Guess that makes me Hawkeye.
Blue Star's Black Widow.
Hey!
No, that would be an interesting conversation. I haven't had the only thing would be more interesting than that would be me and Forlight discussing Star Wars, but that's a different topic altogether.
Well, and I think now his opinions on Star Wars changed considerably thanks to
Episode 9.
You know, saying "I told you so" just doesn't quite cut it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for answering my question. I was really curious about that one.
Yeah. So, having said that, I think now we should delve into our thoughts on the arc. Normally we do positives first, negative second, but if we want to interject both thoughts, we can do both of them at the same time. It doesn't really matter to me. And it's an open. And by the way, this portion of the podcast will be open discussion. So whoever wants to start off first, y'all can go ahead. So, actually, you know what? Let's do this. So why don't we let?
If you say me, I will kill you.
Thought about it. I honestly thought about it. Okay, let's pass the mic over to Steve. So, why don't you start with positives and negatives? Well, okay, you can either do positives first, negatives second, or interject both of them. Doesn't matter.
All right, then.
And then we can just build off of our conversation from that.
All right. So, well, we'll start off with the positives for me anyway. One thing that I really liked about this arc as a whole, it at least, I want to word this right. It at least proves to people that Deku cannot be Deku without his friends. We have these moments between him and All Might that kind of remind me of Batman and Terry McGinnis.
Yeah.
Especially if you remember the Justice League Unlimited episode where they did an episode on Batman Beyond, here's all my giving these lunches off to Deku. And it comes to a point where he's like, wait, you forgot your lunch. I don't need it. And it kind of reminds me
Yeah,
of
it's like
when...
such a contrast, like when you go from how it starts and then when you get to the end of the
Yeah, and it kind of reminds me of I made you some soup when it's cold. Also, the first fight with what's her name, Nagant,
gun? Yeah.
yeah. The end of that fight, when I saw that panel, I was like, damn,
Right?
damn, she just got blown the fuck up. Like, holy shit! Like legit, that came out of nowhere for me. I 100 did not expect.
I didn't either. That's the crazy thing. When that fight was going on, and I got to that picture, I was like, "Oh shit!"
Like, I did not expect All For One to just like, oh, you're about to turn her against me. Nope.
It's like think again, like like a snap. Just nope. That's not how this is gonna work.
Like
Perfectly
damn.
balanced, as all things should be.
And of course, that's what turns Deku fucking dark too.
It did.
It's like, in the first half of this arc, he's kind of his costume.
That's the thing.
His,
he's still relatively the same in the beginning.
Yeah, his costume's kind of edgy, but at the same time, he was more than willing to take off the mask and just be himself. But after that fight, the following chapters after is like, damn. And of course, with that change, his eyes, especially, they become really fucking scary. Like if you just showed me, I had no idea about what this manga was all about. Out of context, you show me that particular frame, any particular frame of Deku with his eyes turned black and all, I'd say he was the villain. Like legit, man.
Right?
He's not. Like you want to talk about edgy? It's like, damn. You think you think
Goblin Slayer?
That is the definition of, say, when Peter had the symbiote. That is essentially what happened.
Mm-hmm. Or you could guess, I guess. Or you could be like Dr. Ock's Superior Spider-Man, but we don't
talk about that.
Right. And yeah, speaking of just him going dark, that's also another thing that I appreciate that this arc at least attempted to do, was to showcase, here's what all your fanfics could have been, but here's why they don't work. Here's why they don't work. Because he still needs his friends. Because otherwise he's just a complete, and even All Might says this, you're running yourself ragged.
And you see, and that's the thing, like, you see that, like, throughout the course of the arc, like, it looks like it at first when you see the costume change, but then, like you said, after what happened with Lady Nagant, like, that's when he just goes, full-on blitz.
Moral of the story is, don't try to make every hero into Batman. Or at least the ideal Fetsy fanboy version of Batman.
I guess it's debatable, but yeah.
I know. I just remember, because there's like certain Batman fans that want him to be nothing but dark and edgy without any of the Robins and all that stuff, even though he kind of needs them.
I mean, look, there's a reason why the Dark Knight trilogy is regarded as one of the best trilogies in cinema. So, and that's without making them super dark and edgy.
Mm-hmm.
But continue on with your point, Steve.
Another positive I can give to this arc, it's kind of more meta-wise, but I like the fact that this was at least relatively short. Mm-hmm. Like, if for anyone who wanted to get into this now and you wanted to start at this arc, it's only 20 chapters, which if you really want to put the commitment to it, you can just breeze through it and, breeze through it in like an afternoon.
Oh, yeah.
So I appreciate that, between, let's see, June till now, or no, not even June, July till now. It's like
let's see here. The arc started. I'm actually gonna double check on this. So it started back in, I They had a date on this too. What's the date? It's weird. I only have dates on this. Oh, no, I find it. So it started in March, actually.
Mm.
It started in March and it ended in chapter 328. So that's around October.
Okay, so
yeah,
relatively short. And there's another manga that I'm reading concurrently. Well, besides One Piece. It's called Welcome to Demon School Aruma-kun. Maybe you've heard of it. I don't know if anyone follows any anime trends out there. Anyone who's listening, anyway. But right now they're about to gear up for another arc, and the last arc they did took about 60 chapters, which is about a year of reading through it. So I appreciate that this arc was only about 5 months. So on to the negatives, though. There's just way too many flashbacks. Like, a good chunk of this arc is just nothing but flashbacks. It's like, and once again, there's this double-edged sword. Yeah, there's all this mysterious intrigue about edgy Deku. Okay, here's why he's edgy. Oh, okay. Neat. Or like, what's a good example? Let's three. What was the chapter where?
Do you remember what happened?
319.
319.
319. Where they all, where we finally catch up on what's been going on with Class 1A.
Mm-hmm.
That chapter was just entirely flashback, and it's like, okay, cool. Maybe we could have interspersed that with things that are happening now, but whatever. And I guess, my negatives in this case, they're just more nitpicky than anything. I really don't have anything substantial that that I would, complain about. Unlike, let's say, One Piece, where way back when
Was
they
this like during
introduced...
Dressrosa? Because if it was during Dressrosa, I could definitely understand that.
Well, way back when they first introduced the time travel fruit.
Oh,
that I had a lot of complaints about. But this arc, for me, my negatives would be more nitpicky than anything else. Like, I wish we had, as short as this was, I wish we saw more of Deku in these heavy shadows and all that. I know it must have been hell, on the author trying to draw all this. It's like, ooh, rain, shadows, dark, and all this gray and black scale. It's like, cool. That's a lot of ink, though. So,
it's kind of like a double-edged sword, like you said. Like, it's cool, but it's like,
yeah, it's like, I understand, but I wish there was more. Like, suffer for us, please. The only, I guess, another nitpick, I'd say it's just how slowly All Might becomes less and less involved as the arc goes on, and I know why.
Yeah.
Meta-wise, I know why, but if you want to tell a dark story and where you need to show that the hero needs the support of his friends, you got to cast them away first before bringing them back. But I'm just saying, I would have appreciated at least maybe one team-up fight with them. Maybe? Is that too much to ask?
Not really. I think that's pretty valid.
Anywho, what are your guys' thoughts on this?
Do you want me to go next, Lucky Chi?
Go ahead.
Well, for the positives, let's see. I think I like how this arc gave Midoriya plenty of, I suppose you could say, action fights, because, well, not to say that that he doesn't get that, but usually...
This was the most focused that we've seen Deku get fights, which is, for me, and like I said, I'll interject my thoughts with everybody else's, but I think that's the biggest positive I can give this arc is that.
Normally, let's see, with Deku, he gets at least one fight in arc, maybe two if he's lucky, but granted, that's only really been the case with, I'd say, the Sports Festival and the, Overhaul arc, where he did technically fight two different opponents on that in each of those arcs.
Yeah, because I was gonna say, like, I don't even, because the not meta liberation, because he wasn't there, but the Paranormal War, I think he only fought Shigaraki, if I remember correctly.
That was like a whole everyone versus Shigaraki kind of fight.
Yeah.
So it's like you didn't really get a solo fight with Midoriya in that one, but this one you've got at least. Well, technically, the first two fights were solo. Then him against like the entirety of Class 1A. So it's like you kind of got like 3 fights in many ways. In many ways, it kind of reminded me of like the first arc of Shippuden, where Naruto had a few fights in there, and then during like the beginning of Day 2, in which it was mostly Naruto fights in that bit, because, Day 1 didn't have any fights with him in there, because, he was supposed to be locked up and all that stuff. But yeah, given he was the Akatsuki's target and all that stuff. So it's kind of like that. But yeah, normally shonen arcs usually have your main protagonist having at least quite a few fights in at least one arc, at least once. And it seems like we finally have gotten that for Deku. So there's that, and it was kind of.
Are you telling me My Hero broke a rule for shonen where the main character can only get one fight? Gasp! That's actually really cool. I'm joking.
But yeah, so it's like it would like build it up with like a rematch against Muscular, which happened much quicker than I think anyone expected, though, and much quicker than I thought it would be. But
this is when you started doing more streams on your channel, but I don't know if I was there for every chapter when it came to the Deku versus Muscular fight, but I do remember reading those chapters and go like, it's kind of fast. Not complaining, I was just a bit kind of thrown off there.
But yeah, there was more of a sort of warm up to show just how far Deku's progressed and showing his new quirks and all that, and particularly the sick fuses smoke screen.
Yep.
We end up learning a bit about, the second and third users, in their history of how they got one for all and all that stuff, and how they were connected to the first. In fact, they were like the leader of a sort of resistance against all for one, if you will, back in the worst period of Japan's hero society and all that stuff. Then I'd say Lady Naga was also quite a highlight when you would see not just the fact that Kohei has once again introduced a new super villain or super villainess, if you will. Since I think one common complaint you'd probably have with my
anti-hero-ish, technically, if we're going to look at it.
Yeah, but yeah, it's not every day you get like a villainous opponent, if you will, I guess, or femme fatale, I guess, perhaps is a better wording for it, to be an opponent for the heroes and all that stuff. But in many ways, the fight with her showed a sort of more like a darker side to like the Hero Commission and the ones that run the Hero Society.
Which I did appreciate. Like I really liked getting into that.
In many ways, it kind of reminded me when we were first initially introduced with like Donzo and Root and some of the more darker sides, like the Soul Society and all that stuff, with like Central 46 and like Kisuke Suehara backstory when you saw like that prison for people that could be considered a threat to the Soul Society and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Examples like that. And all that stuff. But yeah. So it was quite interesting to see that. And then Midoriya's breakdown when All for One was like, now it's your turn.
I remember telling you this. I got chills when that point, and I was like, and make it better. That's the chapter cliffhanger where you get the building. So I was like,
in many ways, we kind of debated whether or not this was like the end of the arc or not.
You could. That's the thing, because I remember seeing discussion threads going on when that chapter came out. And people going like, this is the end of the arc. That's fine, but okay.
But yeah. And there's also some other things of learning a bit more about some of the heroes at the society as a whole, as we end up seeing one of the most minor recurring ones. I think the sort of like construction bodybuilder type hero. I think you know which one I'm referring to. The one that's always.
I know what you're talking about. His name kind of escapes me at the moment, but yeah.
The one that's usually often seen with like Kamai Woods and Mount Lady and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. We end up learning that he ended up quitting the hero thing, and we've also seen more of the aftermath of more people just losing faith with heroes, of like defending themselves, as we saw like those students from like the license exam. Let's see, the one from like the Miss Jokes class.
It was Shindo and, if I remember correctly,
Turtleneck, I think.
Yeah, her name's Turtleneck. Her something, but yeah.
But yeah, we end up seeing a bit more of like people saying, "No, we don't trust you, heroes. We rather defend ourselves." Or in the case with Endeavor, we still see people like, "It's all your fault. You suck. You're a phony hero." You know, angry protesters and all that stuff, who like still blame him for everything that's gone on and all that stuff, and not to mention that the families of the victims that Darby has burned have also apparently come on TV and all that stuff, so that doesn't help. And the more hints that people are getting more aware of like one for all and all that stuff, which would pay off a bit later. Which eventually, but with like Midoriya's mental breakdown and like abandoning All Might, and then just detail in the artwork that Steve mentioned earlier with like Kohei with gritty, dark, edgy Deku and all that stuff, to finally eventually resulting in like a fight with Class 1A and Deku, in which
or the joke that was going around the community, Deku Jaeger. I never get tired of that one, because I remember when especially Chapter 317 came out, like that meme was trending.
But yeah, but in many ways, that fight, kind of reminded me of what some people were first expecting when, like, after Naruto beat the Jinchuriki and all that stuff, and the K11 and the Allied forces were trying to arrive as his backup. Yet Sasuke walking about. I think some people were predicting, is Sasuke going to fight the K11 first with all that stuff?
That would have been something, but
yeah.
Actually, I'm gonna laugh if Kishi reveals in an interview. Oh, hey, I actually did plan on doing a Sasuke versus the K11 fight, but I decided to shift it over because Itachi has it.
Or like, may I just say, no one wants to see that. Go with Sasuke and Itachi.
I wouldn't be surprised. Honestly.
But yeah.
So keep going.
But yeah, I do like how granted, it's not really much of a Midoriya trying to bash him. It's more of him trying to escape and them trying to capture him and all that stuff. But I do like how each one of the heroes, each one of the members of Class 1A, whether they've had big moments with Deku or small moments, talk about how much, he's helped them out or inspired them or made them glad that they've met him, if you will. And they want to fight alongside him and all that stuff to eventually they get it, and eventually they kind of like able to do it and all that stuff. With like my favorite bit being like it was the fact in the end Ida being the one to grab his hand and all that stuff, due to the fact that
I had a feeling you were going to say that, but yeah.
Midoriya helped him out so many times. It's now his turn to help him and all that stuff. In many ways, I'm glad that Ida had this moment, because it does feel like particularly the second saga, Ida felt like more of a minor character than one of the main casts, because he was quite a bit of a big character in the first saga. And he was part of Midoriya's trio of friends along with Uraraka, which, by the way, one of my favorite panels is definitely Deku preparing to fight them, and you had Bakugo with his two best friends ready to fight.
Pretty cool. Actually, here's the thing. Unlike a certain other manga, which I'm not gonna name for those of you who, because I know that's still technically ongoing anime-wise. But unlike a certain other manga, Deku versus Class 1A, I could buy 100% more, and I can understand both sides from that other series, but I won't name it.
So yeah, there's that, and then of course we got to when finally Bakugo's the character moment we've been waiting for, him apologizing to Deku and all that stuff.
Yeah, sorry.
In many ways, this is why for all those who've been
I hate you.
I'm sorry, James.
Finally, paid off all that stuff, and then of course we get to the Uraraka moment, which in many ways, to me is the best heroine speech. In many ways, it reminded me of 630, I believe, with Sakura's speech to the Allied forces, but much more better and all that stuff.
I was gonna say, Blue, I'm gonna break your heart when I say this, but Ochiko's speech, I think, triumphs over Sakura's speech in the.
I agree with you there. Let's see, but yeah, and then of course you got the stuff with Stain, and then the bit at the end of where All For One's plans and like what he's planning to do with each member of the League of Villains. But yeah, I think that probably let's see with like Spinner and all that stuff, and then the introduction of like the international heroes, some of which appeared in the movies. But yeah, for the worst moments of the arc,
not worst moments, but like what like your negatives? That's what we're talking
and negatives. Well, I guess in some ways, I do feel like
I'd say pacing. I'd say the second half in terms of pacing could have been better, but that's me.
I kind of wish we got to see a bit more of the dark, edgy Midoriya and all that stuff, because after Lady Nugget, the villains he would end up facing were just more of like neat character designs of just like background villains. Of like, well, we couldn't and we don't really get to see like. In some ways, I kind of wish we got to see a bit more of the darker, edgy Midoriya, if you will.
Yeah.
Then, like having fight another opponent, could be an either original or like a former one. I might have even give him a counter of Moonfish again to show. Which I assume that. Kohei has some plans with Moonfish since the sharp teeth guy from like the summer art. I'm trying to remember the arc where Bakugo gets captured.
Yeah, I know.
Let's see.
The summer camp arc? Yeah.
Yeah, the summer camp arc. Just because I'm assuming that Kohei has something planned with him since. Out of all the known escape convicts we know, he's the only, besides All For One, he's the only one that's now no longer, captured and all that stuff. And all that stuff, so there's that. I do kind of wish we got to see at least Midoriya having one more dark, edgy fight before Class 1A, fights him.
I'd say when it came to that, I would have taken an extra 3-4 chapters.
Yeah,
I would have been okay with that.
Just to see more of this like mindset and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Other than that, I'm not really sure. Perhaps maybe a bit more focus on All Might, like Steve said. Let's see. But then again, that was saved for Stain, in which seemed to at least give a hint that All Might wants to return to the action in some fold and all that stuff. So there's that. Yeah, I suppose that. Let's see, but for the most part, let's see. I don't really have too many negatives with this arc. It's pretty good. Yeah. Maybe just the only thing I could say is maybe it could have had an extra volume length of chapters, maybe for certain moments.
Oh, definitely.
But yeah, I suppose now it's James's turn.
Yeah, so James, why don't you give us your thoughts next? Save the best for last. Okay, well,
when the Doom music kicks in. No, but seriously, these last couple arcs, not just this one, it's been a long time since I've been emotionally connected with a shonen series since Naruto.
Yeah.
And seeing these characters go down the path that they do, it's not only a natural progression, but a well-wanted one. And I don't really have anything negative to say about this. There's nothing that other than maybe like we wanted to see more, but I have to wonder, would more have ruined it?
That's a good point, actually. Huh.
Would we want to see more? Like we all say we want to see more, but how much is too much? As I wonder. Sometimes,
like I said, I guess it depends. Like for me, I would have just given it like a few chapters, and that's it. But go on.
I think we got just enough to be hungry for more, but not enough to spoil it. I don't know. Just seeing Deku as he is and everything that's going on around him and how everything just... I really have barely any words for this. It's so hard to describe. It's just amazing what they're doing with it, which makes me even more scared because I don't want this to be ruined. I'm very cynical about this because this arc probably is one of the better arcs in My Hero Academia, albeit short-lived. Okay, so for a moment, just pretend you're Deku. What would you do in the same situation? When I think about it, I'd probably do the exact same thing he's been doing. Because you have this mentality that you have this power that this evil villain wants and is willing to kill or go through anybody to get it. And you look at everything that's around you, all the things that are good, everything that's great, and you don't want them to be affected either. So you try to be a lone wolf in it, mostly because it's like, if I don't have any attachment to anything, you can't use it against me. And it's both a tragic and yet a powerful thing for a hero to do. It's more than just self-sacrifice. It's understanding that who you are is something that everybody wants to be, and people are willing to die for it. People are willing to kill each other over it. And for Deku to go the path that he did, it's not a surprising one. It's not one where it's like, I get in, solve the problem, get out, because I'm not going to talk to people about what's going on, why am I doing this. And yeah, people will see me as something of a villain every now and then, but just then coming across villains that you met before, and then you just dominate, you wreck them, because you're just like, oh, you think I'm the same person that you fought before? No. Which goes to show you, it's not the age, it's experience that you go through. And every step of the way, I could feel how Deku was feeling. It didn't stop. And this is why it was such an emotional connection with me, that even you get all these people coming after me, trying to kill me, trying to do this, maybe they escaped and no longer a part of a faction, they're just in it for the destruction. And you're just like, as a hero, you feel you have a moral obligation, but you also feel like you can't be close to anybody because it would end up their destruction. And sometimes you have to, destroy the opposition that you're faced against. So it's a very complicated and yet amazing journey for Deku to go through this I would say a binary morality system. And just seeing his friends fighting him for the sake of what they feel is right versus what he feels is right, it really says a lot. And it even says more when you see the people that care and love about him stand up for him even more. We make a lot of jokes about Naruto and all this other stuff and what we want what the other characters do for Naruto. This is basically what we wanted. The people that actually know him will always stand by him, while the people who don't know him will either fear him or love him. And we see that. You kind of have to read it to really understand what I feel, at least what I feel. I don't know how you guys feel about it. I don't know if you feel the way I do or agree or disagree with me, but the way I feel about it, you're going to have to read it to really understand what's going on. Deku talking with the previous users of One for All was very unique. How All for One can instantly just change the rules off the bat right then and there, and not like instantaneously just like, oh yeah, with the snap of his fingers, it can take the control away from Deku at any moment. And just the underlying fear of that is the whole reason why he tries to distance himself from Class 1A to begin with. And maybe it's not spoken outright, but it's there.
And I mean, even more so, like when he distances himself from like the other heroes too. That's the other big thing.
Yeah, except for maybe All Might, but because there's nothing to gain from All Might's death at this point.
Yeah.
Which gives even more to the credence of the moment of you're next, or which gave me chills when I first saw that scene. Because it's more than just saying you're the next to go down, or because it's also saying you're the next heroes to stand up and fight against this great evil.
Yeah, it ties all the way back to the Hideout Radar, or in this case, season 3, when All Might pointed out to the camera, and
yeah. And it really shows the parallels between Deku and All for One, because especially with Lady the God and everything that happened with that is he doesn't, All for One doesn't see friends, he sees assets.
Yeah.
What he can gain, while Deku has friends and people that he cares about, so that's why he distances himself. So there's a very clear dynamic between the two. even if they do the exact same thing.
In many ways, there's also a sort of like contrast between the two quirks, if you will, since
Yeah, yin and yang, essentially.
since one for all is to help give and help other people, while one for all is all to take for one person.
Yeah, and I mentioned in the last podcast that we had about this, the song that I was talking about, Infrared.
Yeah.
By 3. After I read this arc and everything, this song rang even more true than it did before.
It really did.
And especially when it comes with Ochaku and how she did what she did, especially with standing up for Deku despite everything. That's... I'm sorry, I'm at a lost words with this one, so I'm trying to find what I'm thinking of.
I was gonna say this, like it's interesting when you see her standing up for Deku, because that, when she says like this is his hero academy, like that can also be traced all the way back to, I think, what was it, chapter 4?
Yeah.
When All Might tells Deku that this is his hero academy. So that there's a parallel to that too, which I thought was real interesting.
I mean, this chapter really brought back everything to a head.
Mm-hmm.
This is the reason why this is the last arc, because everything that has built up to this moment is here.
Yeah.
And it's really being tested. For everybody, every character, not just Deku. It's for every character. And especially Ochaku standing up for Deku like that, it's also a symbolism of what being a hero is about. That you believe in the people that you care about, even if you don't agree with what they do. You still have a place here, Deku. You're still a part of it, even if you don't agree with it. Even if you yourself want to alienate yourself, you're still a part of this school. And we're not going to abandon you, especially now. I mean, I ended up crying over all of this. Between Endeavor and all of this going on, I've actually teared up reading some of this and watching some of it.
In many ways, the Uraraka bit kind of reminds me of, well, at least with like all the Britse refugees, but kind of reminded me a bit about when Naruto used to be treated as an outcast due to the fact he was a Jinchuriki.
Yeah. The only thing I can say, and I'm maybe reaching about this one, but tell me what you guys think.
Mm-hmm.
So, how many of you have seen Burn Notice?
I have never seen it.
I remember seeing it a while ago, but
Okay.
there's a little haze on it.
I've seen like 1 or 2 episodes when it was on, but otherwise, I know of it.
Okay, so it is one of my favorite TV series of all time. I mean, I really love this series to the point that I actually own Michael Weston's glasses. That's how much I like this series. There's an episode where he meets another character named Simon. Now, Simon, he was not much different from Michael, the main character. He was a spy working for the government, and eventually he got fed up because it was like, okay, you do all these things for a cause, and then, you know, they willing to abandon you and betray you and everything like that, you know, if it means salvaging the mission, if it means all this stuff. So Simon takes it upon himself and it's like, okay, well, what if, you know, maybe I like doing what I'm doing. Maybe I want to kill people. Maybe I want to do anything. So Simon goes to Michael, because they come from the same upbringing, and he says to Michael, you know, it's pretty soon where you're going to become just like me. And Michael has this breakdown moment where he's upset because he's like, he goes to his friends, he goes to his mother, he goes to everybody, and he says, you know, Simon said, you know, I'm one step away to becoming like him, and it made him really upset. As it should. And I remember that moment because his mother hugs him and he says, there's no way you could become a man like that because you're a good person. And for some odd reason, I thought it would be a nice moment if you had Deku. You know, if you had like All for One. Even if in a brief moment or even just an offshoot, just tell Deku, you know, it's only a matter of time before you could become just like me, because that's the yin and yang of it, you know, where you want power to believe in something, you want enough power to create a perfect world, which this is what All for One was about. It's a good cause, but you do it the wrong way. And All for One could be get into Deku's head and be like, it's only a matter of time before you become just like me.
Another good example I can bring up is Danny Phantom. Like, you remember the episode when he fought as a future evil self?
Oh yeah,
that's another example I could think of.
Yeah, Danny Phantom, great series if you all haven't watched it.
Mm-hmm. No, but there's a moment there where Danny goes like, "What are you gonna do? Waste me? What happens to you then?" And then then you have future Danny saying, "You don't get it, do you? I'm still here. I still exist, and that means as long as I'm here, you'll still turn into me."
I know, and that's really messed up. Reality face kind of thing. I just think it would be nice, and maybe I'm overreaching on this one because, as we know, Shonen's not very good with romance, but they can have their moments.
They can.
Of just this, where Deku can go to Ochaku and just say, there are moments where I feel like I could be just like him, and Ochaku could be like, but you're not.
Yeah, and I'll take it a step further because I know.
Would you say it'd be kind of similar to when Starfire was confronting Robin about whether or not he was like Slade or not? From the Teen Titans cartoon.
Yes and no, because I think it could be much deeper than that. While Slade and Robin do have their connections and everything like that, it could be much deeper. I mean, what is All for One but a man who had this power, who had this ability to change the world, and he had this quirk that could. We saw the flashback. Remember?
You mean where he helped at least two people, one who was powerless and one who wanted to rid of his power?
Yeah. And he's like, but I'm a good person. See, I'm taking powers away and giving someone their life back while I give somebody else a means to protect themselves because they were both victims of circumstance.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, I hate to admit it, this is what makes villains the best villains that you all know of, the best that they are, because they have a point.
They do.
You mean kind of like how Thanos was like the hero of his own story in Infinity War?
Yes.
Yeah.
Although that's the MCU.
Well, MCU Thanos. MCU Thanos, sorry.
We'll make that decision because the comic book Thanos really just did it because he wanted to impress Death.
Pretty much.
Who was a very sexy female for some odd reason, but it is what it is. Who was attracted to Deadpool.
Yeah. I think I also saw an advert for like that Strikeforce app game they have where I think they had like a kid called Deathpool.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But do you guys understand where I'm coming from in this?
Yeah, and anything to mention about because you talked about a possible scenario where Deku can confront Ochako about something like this, and we know as of chapter 327, like, there's a setup there that where he was asking everyone, like, "Hey, where's Ochako at?" And they said that she fell asleep. So there's a setup already there that they're gonna have a conversation in the future. So
kiss, 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 kiss. Sorry.
And before anybody says that's listening to us right now, yes, I guess you could replace it with Bakugo and everything like that, but I mean, I think there's a better way you can do Deku and Bakugo, and I think it's already been done already.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with previous instances, because we already understand that Deku and Bakugo have this weird relationship. And by the way, which is very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Side note, the Bakugo is like the reason why he's so mad at Deku right now is because he has One for All. He has his hero's abilities, and the fact that he could still beat Deku at that time. Granted, it's just saying like, oh, well, you're supposed to have my favorite hero's powers, and I can still beat you, so you're an insult to his legacy. I shouldn't win against you. I should be losing. So it's a very interesting dynamic between Deku and Bakugo. Not in a love relationship. Oh my God, Deku was pregnant by Bakugo kind of thing. But I think this would be a great opportunity to develop the Deku Achaku relationship, especially if that's what the writer is going for. If you're going to end up with that kind of relationship in the end where they two are a couple, and I know some of y'all are going to hate that because I see some of y'all comments and Twitter and Tumblr and everything like that, but if you're going to develop that kind of relationship, I think now would be the opportune time.
Hell, and this is just going off from what I worked on over the past weekend, but I built a compilation of sorts of like every moment Ochako and Deku had throughout the series, and when you look at it, it's crazy.
Let's see. The only thing you gotta worry about when it comes to shonen manga, if whether they end well or badly, is when it comes to the shipping. That somehow ties into how the ending sucks or not.
But go ahead with your thoughts on that, James. Like with the compilations and everything that.
I just see myself a lot in Deku.
Mm-hmm.
Have this great power. You want it to be something great, and then you come to a realization that maybe everyone else is better than you.
Yeah.
And yet everyone else thinks that you should be better.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else, it was great seeing the reactions. It was great seeing everything. But the main point, this is why, man, damn it.
What's up?
This is why I'm trying to keep a cynical view because I felt
you've been in that situation before.
The same exact feelings are the feelings that I've had during Naruto.
Yeah, and I totally get where you're coming from because even I feel that way too.
And you felt the same way with Attack on Titan.
Mm-hmm.
And that disappointment that you felt with the ending and everything like that, and everything that you felt. I mean, I brought that again. We're gonna bring this up because I feel it's very important that good stories, will have your reader emotionally invested.
They will.
And when you betray that emotional investment, is when you betray the very readers that you're trying to inspire.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what Naruto failed to do. You were too busy trying to fulfill a fetish than you were trying to promote an idea that we can achieve things that we believe are the impossible. And My Hero is probably the one shonen that I feel, for all its flaws, for all its horrible flaws that can be attributed to just the shonen trope syndrome, I like to call it.
Yeah.
There's still a lot of inspiration behind it that Deku could be the next Superman, the next Spider-Man, and then you got Deku.
It could be.
The person of tomorrow. He is, and then you got One Punch Man with Saitama, who faces his own problems, but Deku, it's so hard to really pin down, but the feelings you have for this character is just like, I want to be him, but I understand him at the same time. It's a burden and a curse.
I think for Deku, he's like the character at the beginning of a story, while Saitama's like the character you are at the end of the story, if you will. At least in terms of abilities and powers.
Yeah. Well, I think Saitama is a deconstruction of what happens if you have infinite power and nothing to use it with.
Yeah. Sorry.
What are you? Deku is the point of, I want to be the best hero that anybody has ever seen, but I don't have the power to do so. Then you're given the power to do so, so what do you do with it? How do you become the best hero that you could possibly be? And sometimes you're going to go down those dark paths. You're going to find problems that you just can't instantly solve, just by using force or just by, using the powers that you're given. Sometimes you gotta think as a hero does.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where Endeavor fails, is you can't just be a hero that solves problems. You have to be a hero that inspires other people to be heroes as well. And this is something that Endeavor slowly is beginning to learn, but it's something he never understood in the beginning. This is why All Might was the number 1 hero and he was number 2.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why I think the Endeavor Agency, whatever, that arc, was not just a learning experience for the students, but a learning experience for him. And why I think some of you are just so full of crap when you just treat Endeavor like a piece of crap. Not saying that you're wrong, I'm just saying that you can't...
accept it, yeah.
You want redemption. You want characters to change. You want the redemption. You want people to change who they are. Well, you have to accept that they can change.
Yeah, and I mean, we did a podcast about this a while back that I was able to upload as of a couple days ago. But look at Jalal from Fairy Tail. There was a lot of stuff that he did, and
oh my god, I could do a whole 4
redemption.
hours just on that alone.
Yeah, but
Right, because that podcast I recall was 2 hours and 23 minutes.
Yeah. No, but and the road to redemption for Jalal, that took a long time before it paid off.
It took at least 4 pages. At least. What do we get with Sasuke? Yeah, sorry. And then apparently all is forgiven. Screw you guys. Just screw every single one of you that think that's appropriate. Or you think that that's acceptable.
Yeah.
And see, this is why I have both high hopes and cynicism for my hero. Because I want the series to succeed where Naruto failed. I want it to succeed where Naruto failed.
Okay, so what's the next topic, Lucky Chi? I've lost track now.
Well, do you have anything else you want to add on, James, or?
That's basically it. I really can't think of anything else to add. We wanted more. We got what we got. I enjoyed what we got. I don't know if adding more would have ruined or made it better, but... And just that one scene, I think that could be something special in the future, but we'll see.
Yeah. So, a lot of it actually does stem from what you guys have said. Again, I like a lot of the not self-fulfilling, that's not the word I want to use here. The hard-hitting questions, if you will, that Deku has to go through. Again, being essentially the next All Might, actually putting the entire weight of One for All on his shoulders. And again, you see him go from this journey of him being kind of edgy with his costume design and whatnot, but still maintaining his personality. But then again, after the fight with Lady Nagan is when you see. And here's the thing, because I actually reread this whole arc just before we started doing the podcast. The change didn't really start happening until after that, immediately after that fight, because the thought that ran through Deku's mind was one, or not one, but all for one.
Or now it's your turn.
Yeah, there was that too. And also, side note, I know a lot of you folks out there love Mirko, but I'm sorry. Lady Nagan is best girl in the series. I'm just going to say that right now. So,
Marco?
Mirko, the bunny girl.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Yeah, I know. I know there's a lot of support for that, but for me,
so in other words, if you were to pick a waifu, you'd pick Lady Nagant.
Well, okay, not just because of she looks,
I'm joking. I'm messing with you.
No, I know, but it's not just because she looks hot, but her backstory was what really got me. I really loved again, that duality of what does it mean to be a hero, and what does it mean to, kind of put on a facade for the world when there's all this dark stuff going on in the background. And, why should we hide what's there and not let the public know?
Because villains.
Essentially.
Also, look how they reacted when, Endeavor's family backstory was revealed.
Yeah, so, no, and it's an interesting, again, like I said, there's an interesting, duality there. It's like, all right, so you get why you would hide stuff like that, but then there's also an aspect where you're like, well...
Was it even necessary to do those actions in the first place?
Yeah. It's a double-edged sword, and I really like that My Hero, actually, especially for a first arc in a saga, let alone for the final act saga, if you will. Kohei did an amazing job of diving into that. The stuff with All Might and Stain. And I know I brought up the entire situation with Deku's... If you want to call this Deku's Road to Hell, you could call it that.
I suppose you could say his lowest point.
Yeah. Again, it's kind of similar to what James said, where it's like when Peter got the symbiote. He was still kind of, Spider-Man, but when the dark tendencies came in, it came. So that's how I kind of viewed this, where it was like, all right, it's like, okay, imagine if Deku had the Venom symbiote, and he's still relatively himself, but then as the story progressed, you saw the darker side of Deku, and you saw how that was, creeping in, especially post the fight with Lady Nagant. And obviously with All for One point is being going and now it's your turn with the explosion in the final panel and whatnot. And again, we've seen the concept of, all right, you have essentially the best friends, the side characters coming in to save or trying to get back the one person who was a part of the group. We've seen that. We've seen it in Naruto. Obviously, I don't know. Bleach didn't do it, so we didn't see it in Bleach. But yeah, predominantly Naruto, and well, okay, when that happens in the one series, we'll get to it in the anime. But so we've seen scenarios like that, but the biggest problem I've had with scenarios like that in the other series is how one side is totally justifiable, and the other side is like, okay, you kind of have a point, but you got to think long term. What's going to happen?
You're referring to when Naruto had that speech against Pain and all that stuff, where Pain gave him that speech about his village.
I was referring to Naruto and Sasuke. But,
oh, okay.
Yeah, no. So you had stuff like that where it's like, okay, I get Naruto's point of view on why he wanted to bring Sasuke back, but Sasuke, as much as people want to hate, I totally understand why he wanted to go down I have my path, y'all have your path, and stuff like that happens. It's like what James said. It's about change, and change is important. Though, again, where I think this works in the favor of My Hero, as opposed to say Naruto, where literally it took up the entire second part of the story. This one, here's the thing. We all knew Deku was eventually going to go back. It was just a matter of when was it going to happen. And I think it's so funny. It took... Because someone pointed out, I wish I saved the comment somewhere, but someone was like, you know what's so funny? Sasuke takes the entirety of the time skip for everyone to bring him back. Deku, one arc. I don't know. I just found that to be amusing, just seeing that comment in and of itself. I totally get Deku's reasoning wholeheartedly of why he wanted to do this, but I also understand the side of Class 1A and why they wanted to bring Deku back. And it's like what Steve said, is that Deku can't really do this without his friends. And that's what this whole entire arc is trying to showcase. Which, in hindsight, I think really works out. And Blue knows this better than anyone because, on his channel, we've done streams when it came to, like, what are our thoughts on the next chapter. I thought at the time, because it's the point I'm going to reiterate here, I told Blue it would have been more interesting if Deku somehow, even though he was kind of worn out and everything, I told Blue, and again, this is way before we got the later events, it would have been more interesting if Deku takes out Class 1A, and the people, and the one who's kind of able to give him that reality check was Stain. And I thought, story-wise, it would have been like, okay, that's interesting, because it would have showcased a complex, not complexity, but like a difference, like where, Stain left Deku off the hook the first time, and now Stain tells Deku, well, now look at what you've become. Like, that's what I thought we were going to get. I was like, okay, that would have been kind of cool. However, given with what we have, I'm actually kind of okay with it, because what I never thought I would see was having Stain talk to All Might.
Not to mention that some like nice callbacks and cameos to like citizens that have been previously saved. For example, you had the last person All Might ever saved, removing the "I'm not here" sign from All Might's statue.
Yeah, and if anything, I also liked how when that chapter starts off, like, you have All Might like looking at his statue, like, yeah, what were you able to do when your disciple was hurting? Like, you're no hero. You're just, you just stood idly by. And again, it's kind of like a self-commentary on how he sees himself, like how he's supposed to be the symbol of peace, and in the end, he was, feeling a certain way. But again, the whole conversation with Stain, I thought, was a pretty key highlight in and of itself.
It's a very interesting social commentary in a subtle way.
Yeah.
I mean, Stain as a character, he was a person that struck down people who were fake.
He did.
And combined with All Might saying, now it's your turn. At least in the English dub, or next, it's your turn, or whatever. It's not just for the characters in the story, it's for us.
Let's see. Let's see. By the way, I'm not sure. One thing about one sort of commentary that I think some people have seen to make about My Hero Academia, particularly in regards to All Might. I'm not sure if you've seen this video. Have you seen this video called "The Rise of Overpowered Mentors" that came out? About a week ago by this guy called Ocean Z or something.
I've heard of it. I haven't actually looked into the video itself.
But anyways, it seems like it seems like with the way like mentors like All Might, Yami from Black Clover, and I think that sort of white-haired dude from Jujutsu Kaisen, apparently these like the overpowered top of their food chain mentors, if you will, and all that stuff.
Oh, are you referring to Gojo?
Yeah. Let's see. Apparently, at one point in the story, they've either been removed from the thing, and in a sense, you've got like the stable pillar structure gone, in which now, you see like, a bit of a panic of crisis in the thing. This is more in case with like All Might, because like he was the one that was like all for himself. It's like he was the one that was keeping Hero Society up as a whole by himself. But once you've taken that pillar, there's nothing else to support, and it all comes crumbling down.
Yeah, it's like a domino effect. Like once you knock down like the big centerpiece, it's like chaos everywhere.
Yes. And in many ways, it's now like not just Deku, but everyone needs to hold up again in order to make sure that the symbol of peace must become more than just like one person. It must become like a collective group. And in many ways, it's like instead of like having a solo hero, it's like why you need like the Justice League and the Avengers or X-Men, depending if you're like DC or Marvel, if you will.
Yeah.
Like all these heroes that can like inspire people, not just the one.
No, and honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if that's the direction Kohei goes, and where you do get essentially a Justice League or a Avengers like team by the very end of the story. But
anyways, that's kind of like what one of the citizens that was like, let's see, I think even the guy that Midoriya first talked to in the first chapter, when you had all those audience people just shouting at him and all that stuff, saying like, we stepped on the sidelines just relying on this one guy when we should have shown the support, and like we only have like the ones that are still fighting left. If we get rid of them, who else there's the two to turn to? But stuff like that. But in many ways, I think My Hero Academia and even some of these modern day mangas are kind of like maybe in Jump meta commentary about how Shonen Jump relied so much on the big three and all that stuff, and that they always needed like these top three mangas, but once they were gone and they collapsed, it kind of they had a bit of a crisis until like all these new modern day mangas came and gone, but I've managed to keep interest in manga strong, that in some ways it's surpassing interest, at least in the sort of like book wise, over the US comics. Now, granted, I know some people say there's also some political reasons for why comics are like going down a sort of deep end, but for the most part, but you've got all these like new variety of mangas. They're not just these three big top mangas that were popular, that if something bad happens to them or if they lose popularity, there's like there's a problem. There's not a crisis of like replacing manga and all that stuff.
Yeah, like in a way you could say now like manga in itself has expanded beyond just Naruto, Bleach, and One Piece at this point.
Let's see. And before that, I guess you could even say Dragon Ball.
In a sense, yeah.
Since well, at least in US history, it first was like Dragon Ball, a major anime and manga, though there were anime and mangas before, but never really, as big as Dragon Ball. Then
it was Dragon Ball, Kenshin, and Yu Yu Hakusho. Essentially, was like the initial three starting points for Jump. Initially, from what I remember,
at least for like when it came to like more of the global thing. But then Big Three, and now you can choose Demon Slayer, My Hero, Black Clover, Jujutsu Kaisen, Dr. Stone, Promised Neverland.
Well, okay, Dr. Stone, I don't know if I would... Like, people talk about it, but Dr. Stone, I wouldn't...
They each have their hits, their high successes or failures, if you will.
No, I was just going to say, like, I don't... Like, Dr. Stone's not as big as, say... Like, it's as far as discussion goes, not a lot of people talk about Dr. Stone versus, say, My Hero or Black Clover, or hell, even, like, Demon Slayer, if you will.
Okay. Fair enough, but I suppose you could say, in a sense, those are the three most talked about right now.
Yeah.
With, I guess, Jujutsu Kaisen being a close fourth. Or, like, the closest to getting there.
Ironically, I hear a lot of people praising Dr. Stone, but they don't give me a reason why it's good. Like, I don't hear a lot of people, like, saying, oh, well, this is good because of this particular thing, or that's good because of this particular thing. They just tell me, Dr. Stone's good, you should watch it, and they just end the conversation right there.
Fair enough. So, I suppose, let's see, so out of curiosity, our thoughts on the arc. I take it, are they like positives, negatives, then moments, best and worst on next, right? Or
yeah, I'll just briefly just talk about my negatives, which is not too different. Like, they're more nitpicks, if you will. Like, do I wish we got more stuff on like Dark Deku, not evil Deku. I can't say that. Let's say anti-Deku. Let's say that as a term. The anti-Deku journey. Like I said, 3-4 chapters at most is what I would have probably said. I would have even also said maybe you could have extended the fight with Class 1A versus Deku by like 1 or 2 chapters, but that's it. Again, a lot of it's just like, okay, maybe you could have put in a little bit, sprinkled in a few more elements, but again, you could jot that all down to, okay, well, that's just nitpicking. So you could even just say it's that. But I don't know. Like, I don't think there's really much I could say, since I did also kind of just interject my thoughts on positives and negatives. It's like, well, each of y'all were talking, so I guess with that we could go to moments, best or worst moments, and
Well, easily the best moment for me would be the fight against Lady fuck, what was her name? It's been a while.
Lady Nagant.
Yeah, Lady Nagant. Easily the best moment, especially the end. Again, just came, at least for me anyway, just came out of nowhere. Bam. Worst moment? I don't know. That's easily debatable.
Well, worst moment could also be like least favorite too, where it is your favorite, but it's not like on like the highest list.
I suppose if I had to pick a least favorite moment, it'd damn, this is actually kind of hard.
For this arc in particular, it's tricky. It's super like if you asked me for the other arcs, I could have easily picked one, but this one's like
It's like a near perfect arc.
near perfect.
And again, it's the double-edged sword of having a short arc. Like 21 chapters really isn't a whole lot to work with.
It isn't, yeah.
I suppose if I had to pick one thing, it'd just be like, how do I word this? Like, I suppose it was kind of redundant to have the previous holders of One for All to explain how most of their powers work to Deku. It's kind of a it kind of towed the line between between too much telling, not enough showing. You know?
Yeah, I was gonna say, does it remind you of the anime where like every season they go back and talk about each of the quirks? Or
yeah, pretty much. It kind of toes that line. Like, it's not quite there, but it certainly it has essence of it.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, yeah, this pretty much, there's more favorites than there would be. There's more best moments than there would be kind of least favorite moments.
What about you, Blue?
You mean best moments? Oh, it's very hard to pick because I like so many moments. But I guess,
I mean, and if you won, you could jot it down to like the top 3.
Let's see. I definitely say Uraraka's speech is one of them.
And then it doesn't have to be like any particular order. You could just.
And then let's see. I guess let's see. Now it's your turn. Stands out to me from All for One because it's just like now my interest is like the let's see the big boy is back in charge, if you will. Mm-hmm. Let's see, and I guess either the bit where Bakugo apologizes to Midoriya, or let's see Midoriya about to face off against Class 1A. I think these 3 moments stand out to me. As for weakest or worst, well,
worst, weakest, least favorite, you know. And when we mean worst, because we're not saying like it's the absolute worst moment of the arc. It's just,
granted, this could be more of like for like this probably should be more missed opportunities, but I think let's see, I'm kind of a little disappointed that the chapter with the Class 1A flashback. I guess, let's see, didn't get more, I guess, let's see, I kind of wanted to see a bit more of a, reaction to, like, them finding out that Deku is, like, what Deku's quirk was and all that stuff. I guess since it kind of, they learned every detail off screen, really, about it, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, that's pretty much more of a missed opportunity, really, so, I guess the sort of like weakest moment, I guess, is seeing some of these, I guess, other villains that All for One sent, being defeated rather quickly without, perhaps learning a bit more about them, I guess. But I don't know, it's kind of like I said, a bit hard. But yeah, I suppose James's turn next. Maybe he can say something.
And like I said, James, worst moment can just be jotted down to least favorite or weakest moments.
Best moment, yes. I guess that doesn't help, does it?
Are you saying that everything is the best moment?
Pretty much. I mean, every single moment was something special to be added to the story, so I can't really say much.
Fair enough. Should we go into the missed opportunities? And I guess I could go a bit more on about how I kind of wish that, we got a few more moments with
Wait, Blue. You're skipping me out.
Sorry. I forgot you hadn't had your turn yet.
Only Blue could skip the host.
Yeah, right?
He did that with my podcast too. This guy.
Always.
This guy here.
It's something formless. It's like, see, look, he's trying to hijack your show.
Yeah. He's so predominant he skips himself.
I'm sorry. I've become so used to hosting streams that I just crave more. I know I shouldn't.
Power. Unlimited power. Okay, shut up now before I get into that. Anyway, wait, James, did you list off a least favorite moment, or?
I'm trying to think.
You can nitpick too. It doesn't have to be like anything.
I'm trying to think of a nitpick moment. It's kind of hard.
Yeah.
Tell you what, you go ahead with yours, and I'll try to think of mine.
Okay, so if we're going for me, and I'll go top 5, and it's not in any particular order. So obviously, like Steve said, Deku versus Lady in the Gun is one of them. What else was there? The chat All Might and Stain had was really good. Ochiko's speech was another one. Class 1A versus Deku, for the most part, I thought was really good too. Well, as hard as it sounds, I actually kind of really liked the moment when Deku told All Might off, cause, and it's messed up for me to have that as a fair moment, but I'm having it there because it kind of parallels to how All Might was with Night Eye, with how All Might was pushing himself and Night Eye was trying to warn him, and then now you're seeing the flip side of it, where All Might's trying to tell Deku to rest up because he hasn't rested at all since he left UA. He's been in a way beating himself to the bone, and in spite of all these dark shadings where you see the eye and he's looking menacing and whatnot, there are certain panels where you do see semblances of Deku's innocence through his costume, where he tells him no, I'm okay. You don't have to worry about me. That one really spoke to me because I was like, damn, just because you're seeing where Deku was in the beginning and how much he idolized All Might and how much he looked up to him, and then you see where Deku is by that point, and even All Might kind of points that at you, yeah, you're no longer looking back at me, you're just moving forward, which is crazy. Least favorite moment? That's tricky for me. If I were to nitpick, okay, as cool as it was to see Jailbreaker or Muscular, and maybe this could be a missed opportunity too, but
I guess I could also add that, yeah, I kind of wish that, let's see.
I was just going to say, Muscular felt more of like an obstacle, but that's just me.
Yeah, I suppose that is probably the weakest moment for me since Muscular was taken down rather quickly.
Yeah, and again, that's just me nitpicking. So that's what I would just have to say as far as favorite moments and least favorite moments. But
It's just strange that I kind of really like that part.
no,
Mostly because we already got that big in-depth thing with him when they first fought,
yeah,
and then like the second coming, he just like easily like manhandles him.
yeah. No,
I,
it was really cool. Like I thought that was cool to see how far Deku went, but at the same time, it was kind of like, you could have probably done a little bit. I don't know. It's a double-edged sword situation, you know?
yeah, I guess it could have given Jailbreaker or Muscular or whatever he goes by, whatever name he goes now. I guess it's a missed opportunity.
Yeah,
For him to grow as a character instead of just being the stereotypical big muscular dumb, the big dumb stupid one that that Deku just takes out. I guess what you mean by that. It would have been nice if he's like, oh well, the first time we fought, I was kind of like outmatching you and you barely just defeated me. Now you're just easily manhandling me without effort, and I take great insult to that. And maybe self-reflection of like I'm not as great as I think I am or was.
yeah, and like especially like when you compare to like the other villains, like again like Lady Nagan or especially with Overhaul, especially Stain. That's another one too.
Would it make sense if I said my least favorite moments is the missed opportunities that could have been had?
You can have that.
So, like, Muscular, that's a missed opportunity. The Cultural Festival, I think. Actually, okay, I'll take that back. The Cultural Festival probably is the weakest out of all of it. That doesn't mean it's the worst in the series. That just means it was the weakest of this arc. I'll have to agree with Blue on that one. There's a lot of missed opportunities, I think, that could have been throughout the series. And the Cultural Festival, it was a little... While I did appreciate seeing like them be normal for once, it was also kind of jarring. I don't know. It's hard to. It's really hard.
Yeah, like if we're just picking from this arc,
I know we're nitpicking.
Yeah,
I mean, everyone's gonna be like, "Oh, well, you're kind of poking at." Yeah, we understand this. We're nitpicking. We're looking at things that could have been that weren't, and that's our biggest problems with this arc. It's just like you could have done so much more and you didn't, and we're just wondering why you didn't, and if you did, would it have added really anything to it. So probably it's a toss up between the Cultural Festival and just Muscular just be reduced down to a lackey rather than a supervillain.
Yeah, that's what I would say. What about best moments, or are you kind of stuck on that too? I mean, it could be anything.
Best moments
or moments. It could be like top 3, top 5. Doesn't matter.
I'm gonna go with Steve on this one. Lady Nagant.
Yeah,
that kind of really like imagine going from 1 to 11. It's just like Jesus, just that really was a very special moment in my heart. That moment and Ochaku and the speech with Ochaku and
that was a
just Deku with the Hero Academy and everything like that. That those were 2 special moments.
They were.
All right, so we're all in agreement.
We're on missed opportunities, and then we can all interject our thoughts for this, which I think we've sort of been doing.
Yeah, I think I kind of said like let's see, Class 1A didn't get a more, I guess, detailed reaction. Let's see, detailed reaction to I guess Midoriya's quirk, but I guess given the fact that it was on the note thing, in which I guess Ashido commented on, I guess that was going to happen, but. I kind of wanted to see Shoto at least talk to Midoriya about his quirk, since for the longest time he's been asking Midoriya quite a bit about it. It's like, are you All Might's secret love child, or like, do you have 2 quirks this entire time?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Like again, aside from the few things I've said, like, okay, maybe the missed opportunity is like kind of blitzing over Deku's road to hell, if you will. But and okay, admittedly, yeah, the fight with okay, that's a thing because if you think about it, like between it's your turn and the battle between Deku versus Class 1A, I think that's only just a span of 3 chapters. So, and it's like what Steve said, it's a double-edged sword where, yeah, we're quickly going through it, which is nice, but it's also that double-edged sword of like, maybe it would have been better if we did have a couple moments like sprinkled in here and there before we get to that, but, you know, there's a missed opportunity there. Maybe you could have. Okay, and I know we get instances where Deku's taking out like each of the Tartarus escapee members from the prison. Maybe you could have delved a little bit more into those villains.
Mm-hmm.
There's a bit of a missed opportunity there in that sense.
Personally, I would have liked at least maybe 1 or 2 more pages with Ochako, but that's just me. That's just the shipper in me. Give me more of that speech, damn it.
Yes,
Or I don't know. How about
yes.
no, too risque for Shauna and Blue Star. They need a hug.
I know people want to see it.
Still too early.
I was gonna say I know people want to see the kiss, and I'm the cynical one here thinking I don't think we're gonna get a kiss. We'll get a confirmation, but I don't think we're gonna get a kiss between the two of them. But I could be wrong.
We need that moment after a big battle. I think that will cement it. After everyone is just beaten to all hell, where the bad guy finally falls, and everybody realizes they can get back to, well, normalcy.
Yeah.
As much as normalcy as it can be. We did have a lot of missed opportunities with, like we said, Jailbreaker, Muscle Man, whatever. We had a missed opportunity there. I have to disagree with you, Blue Star, on this one. I don't think Shoto going in more in depth with One for All and the abilities really would have added anything. I don't think that would have really solidified anything. I
think you have a point, Jim, because
I don't know. I just kind of feel like I just kind of want to hear this. Maybe just a comment about it.
I would have settled for a smile. Like a smile and a nod.
True.
I think that would have said a lot more, especially with actions speaking louder than words.
Mm-hmm. Like maybe a smile and maybe like just a quick pan, because that's the one thing I think this arc actually did pretty well. Is like when you have everyone trying to get Deku back, and you see like not Naruto style where you get like a whole page dedicated to, hey, remember this, and it's like, oh, just memories. It's like just one moment, and then it's like just right beside them. That's it. Like if you had it like that, and you have Shoto smiling and then thinking back to that moment, you could do it like that. But you know,
yeah, it's just really hard because you want to tell a story that advances everything, and having Shoto, I guess the moment I can't see a reason why. It doesn't really advance his character. It doesn't really advance the plot. So what would be the reason? Yeah. Other than just seeing the reaction that he would have. But you can express that in like just one panel or 1 or 2 panels easily. So I get it, but at the same time, it's not something that really is.
It's not like a necessity.
Exactly. And you could do that much later.
You could.
If you want. It's not like Bakugo learning, you know?
No.
Bakugo learning One for All was much more significant than Shoto learning One for All, I guess.
I'm kind of like referring to Class 1A as a whole, really, in that moment, but I guess, but fair enough. I don't know, Shoto was just like a singular thing where it's less like, oh, okay, so that's what's behind your power and all that stuff, but alright.
I guess. But we got a lot more with Shoto when they were working with Endeavor, so.
Yeah. Okay. We did get a lot of that with the Shoto during that point.
Deku becomes Spider-Man, apparently.
Legit.
And they say that a hero could save us. I'm not gonna stand here and wait.
Like, imagine after My Hero Academia ends, and then someone asks Kohei, "Hey, so why did you give Deku the 6 books? Well, I wanted to make him more like Spider-Man." Okay, I can see that.
Spider-Man!
Like, I can see that, given how you gave him Danger Sense things and Black Whip, which is essentially like the symbiote.
Him, Danger Sense, Black Whip, Strength. How is he not Spider-Man? Well, he has Smokescreen. Oh, well, that makes him different then.
Well, not only that, but you also have Fajin, which is essentially like reflexes, and I'm like, okay, Spider-Man knows reflexes, so that's.
I just thought of a fun parody with Deku going Smokescreen, and he just farts in the guy's face. And that's it. Just
Someone need. Okay, I know there's a pic already with Peter and Deku, but someone needs to do an updated picture, like with just Spider-Man going like a lot of people are comparing you to me. I'm like, how so? Well, you can use that ability where you can swing across the city like I do. You have the ability to block any incoming attacks, and you know reflexes. Like, what else is different between us? Well, I've got Smokescreen. I can fly. You can fly? I wish I had that ability.
I did see a cool comic where someone made a fan comic with Deku and Superman. And Superman was like, "So I heard your mom made your costume. Oh my god, I'm so embarrassed. This is gonna freak me out. That's okay. My mom made my costume too. Aren't moms great?"
That's a good point, actually, huh? And it's like we said, Kohei was kind of influenced by superheroes. So actually having Deku's mom make the costume is, you could even say, is an homage to that.
Oh yeah, it's basically just Deku is just basically an amalgamation of all the best superheroes we could think of.
Yeah.
Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, maybe a little Iron Man.
What about Captain America?
I don't know.
Well, when he starts throwing a shield, then I'll say that.
Yeah, like if it features a shield at some point, then I'll be like, okay, there's.
When Deku Japanica throws his mighty shield, all those who choose upon this shield must yield.
So unless you're a plane
or a bomb,
I forgot how the rest of it goes.
or some ice, or a brainwashed body, or a Spider-Man, or just plain Thanos, then you don't necessarily have to yield.
That was great.
I'm surprised both the Blue Star and Steve didn't finish that one.
I know, right?
Oh, that's because I don't remember the lyrics of the song. Sorry.
I only know the Deadpool abridged version. When Captain America hears his mighty shield, something, 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 something must yield. Something, 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 something red and white and blue. And Captain America is his mighty shield.
A brainwashed buddy with a robotic arm.
That's messed up. It's funny, but messed up at the same time.
What about Captain America? Well, I guess you got the sense of justice for
Deku,
freedom
yeah.
or something. I don't know.
So, are we now on predictions for the next arc, or where it could have improved or something?
Well, where it could have improved kind of falls in line with the missed opportunities, technically. So you're kind of covering two things in one with that.
We already kind of knocked this one to death.
Yeah,
and then we did mention how we could have had a few more chapters in certain places.
Yeah, like let's see here. If I'm looking at it, like it's a total of 22 chapters. Because let's see, the 306 ends the war arc, and this one lasted up until 328. So you could have sprinkled like maybe 8, maybe like say 6 or 8 chapters just to flesh out a few things, and split them off like 3-4 chapters a piece, like 4 chapters on Deku's solo journey, and then maybe a few extra chapters on Class 1A versus Deku. But That's about it, though. There's not like much you could do, and if we want to, maybe make Muscular a little bit more than just hey, I just want to have fun and cause mayhem and destruction. But yeah, nah. Outside of that, I think that's it. So I was gonna say this. This is actually interesting, and I know I brought it up during a Blue stream. I haven't brought it up here per se. Let's see if I can find it real quick.
Was that the last stream or the stream before that?
It might have. I'm double checking. It's something Kohei said. You know what it is, Blue. So I think this is an interesting. I think ending it off on this note would be interesting. So he said essentially, and this comes from the afterward section in Volume 32, the recent one that just came out in Japan. But according to him, originally this final act was gonna just be 5 volumes, and at the moment, he's not even sure how long it's actually gonna be. So,
Well, I do remember he once got advice from Kishimoto that whatever number of chapters you plan for an arc, it always ends up being double that.
yeah. So if it was intended to be 5, I'm gonna make and I guess since we're in the final act saga, if you will, I'm gonna take a guess and say maybe 10 volumes max. So for coming out from volume 31 that just recently came out in Japan, let's say roughly around volume 41 is where I think it could be.
I think we're probably gonna get. I think we're gonna get at least 45 volumes.
Could be. But like, what do you guys think about those author comments that Kohei made about this final act saga, if you will, intending it to be just only 5 volumes, but then him kind of being like,
well, as we've known from many shonen authors, whatever number they intend for an arc or a volume, or how long they intend the series to last, it always ends up being longer. Best example, Oda. One Piece will last 5 years. On its like
But how many times has Oda said that though? He said that more cases than one. So that's my
the first he says there's going to be a 5-year series, and then it's going to end in 5 years, and then 5 years again and again and again and again. So it's like, let's see. So in many ways, however long a mangaka thinks an arc is, it always ends up being longer, as we've seen.
What about you, Steve?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much kind of a common trope within shonen manga at this point. It's like, yeah, you say this will happen, but then it ends up, taking twice as long to get there.
Yeah.
Otherwise, really, what else can he say? It's an interview.
Mm-hmm.
It's like he can't exactly say, well, I don't know when it's ending, but it's ending soon.
It's about. I mean, we all know it's in the final stage. It's stages, final stages. It's just a matter of
when it's done.
There's also, we still have to wait and see when we're going to finally meet Midoriya's father, because apparently he's going to play a role at some point.
Yeah, according to him, it'd be going into spoilers. So, and again, the only thing we know about his dad is he can breathe fire. So, does make me wonder. I don't know. There's only one. Okay, yeah, there's only one guy we know of, technically, who knows how to use fire. So,
well, as far as we know, he doesn't seem to be a hero. So, otherwise, I think people might have recognized Midoriya to some extent. Like, let's see Midoriya's name. Like, let's see Midoriya. Isn't that the name of that? Let's see, fire breathing you hear and all that stuff. So, I don't think it's that, but who knows?
well, I mean, it's kind of like with what Lady Nagan said. Like, there is always stuff that's hidden from the media and whatnot, or from the public. So it could be one of those cases too.
remember for a while there was like that theory of like All for One being his father, but that I think has been debunked by now.
Right. What do you think, James? Like, how do you feel about what Kohei said about this final act originally being intended to be 5 volumes, but now he's thinking it's going to be a little bit longer than that?
I don't mind it because it sounds like he's really trying to tell a story here, and eventually you sometimes get some inspiration on to extend the story a little bit more and expand on it more and make something really wonderful. I'm just more cautious of it. Like, don't dive too much into it because eventually you're going to keep going and you never know when it's going to be a good time to stop.
Yeah.
And you can always make side stories if you need to.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need to add a story that doesn't really have any impact, but it's just interesting enough that you can make it a side story later down the road if you want to.
Mm-hmm.
All I know is how I know I want it to end versus how I think it's going to end versus how they want it to end.
That's a conflict.
And how I want it to end is All for One is defeated and everything like that, and then there's a time skip where they're facing a new enemy, and then just see everybody like just be like kind of just facing a villain that's a little too tough for them, and then they all just look up and there's Deku standing as an older hero and says, "Sorry, I'm late." You know,
Can't
and
be
then
that.
that's basically the end because you know that he's going to be the greatest hero. He said it at the beginning of the series.
Actually, that's a point I was going to bring up because I know a lot of people said, "Oh, like the story's not shifting to this is the story of how we became the greatest heroes." I actually have an interesting interpretation about that now since I've reread that chapter. I don't think that's from Deku's point of view saying it. I think that's Ochako.
It might be. Just please, for the love of God, don't kill him. I hate that theory that someone brought up. Oh, here's how I became the greatest hero by dying, and that's the biggest influence I have is through death. It's like, no. This is the one thing I've said for the longest time to all of us plus anybody else is willing to listen.
Mm-hmm.
It's just it's easy to die for what you believe in. It's not so easy to live for it.
Yeah.
Anybody can be a martyr. It's not that hard. It's a lot harder to continue to live by those standards.
It is.
And I just hate the theory like, oh, that just means he's gonna die in the end. Why do we gotta go so dark?
Right? Like a bittersweet ending for this series in particular?
I would be pissed.
Ugh, it depends.
Well,
I mean, okay. Personally, for me, I told Blue this. I think this could end like a classic superhero tale, where you have Deku there, and then he goes off to face, let's say, like a casual like street thug or a robber, if you will. And the story, it's kind of like an open end, if you will. It's like, all right, like Deku. This is the story of how Deku became the greatest hero, but there could be more in the future later down the line. It's kind of like that, where it's an ending and it's like, okay, you can envision where the story goes beyond that. Kind of like that. That's what I think we're probably going to get.
Well,
Yeah.
This is my prediction before like the final arc. Oh, sorry, wait, you're saying something first. Sorry.
No, that's pretty much it.
But yeah, but this is what I was like predicting before, like it's I guess the end of the war arc, when it's revealed, when it's revealed that Midoriya might be the last quirk user. I figured Midoriya was telling the story to his successor before passing on his quirk to him and all that stuff, and it's like another.
I don't know if I would want that though. Personally, like, okay, I get the symbolism there because All Might passed on the quirk to Deku, and I would bring it back full circle. I don't know if that's an ending I would want per se.
I know that's what I was expecting to happen and all that stuff, but now I'm not so sure. Other than that, I assume at least we might get something with like maybe Midoriya and Uraraka having a family or something. But other than that, I don't really know whether or not Midoriya will be fighting a new hero or just, let's see, be fighting a new villain and all that stuff, or just maybe like a FMA thing where you get like photos of everyone in their current lives and all that stuff.
Please, for the love of God, do not pull a Wonder Years or a How I Met Your Mother ending.
Yeah, please.
For the love of God, do not just sit here and waste our entire time with all this crap, and then by the end to go, well, that's just the way life works, I guess. No!
Wait, James. Okay. How would you feel if Deku's telling the story to his dad? Then how would you feel?
Yeah, Dad, I've been through all this stuff, and I went through this dark path and was very emo. So I went through an emo phase, and there was this girl I really liked and everything like that. But so son, what happened? Well, she went off and married the badass guy who told me to go kill myself. I lost all my powers, and even though I'm a weak, pathetic individual now, like people consider me the greatest hero because I made the ultimate sacrifice. Well, the good thing is I didn't die, right? That's a plus, even though I lost everything that I've actually cared about in my life. But who cares? I'm the greatest hero because I didn't die, but I sacrificed everything for it.
What'd you do if it's not? What'd you do if it's like the post-credit scenes of Iron Man 3? It's like, I finished the story, but hey, your father's like, I'm sorry, I fell asleep halfway through.
Don't pull an Iron Man 3
I'd be more pissed, honestly, Blue. If it was that, I'd be like, are you kidding? That'd be stupid. I'm sorry.
It was a symbolism of me, like, understanding that life is precious and everything.
No, like, Blue, okay. It worked for Bruce Banner. It wouldn't work for this. I'm sorry.
I don't know, I was just making that as a joke.
No, he's going to go back in time and be with the sweetheart that he always planned to be. Wait, we've already done that one. I mean, there's so many ending possibilities to this, and I don't want to overthink it either, but I don't want these bullshit crap endings because I hate it. It hasn't been done right.
The thing, and I've told Blue this already, but the thing that's, especially when I hear authors say, yeah, I have the ending plan, and I'm like, okay, I've heard that term several times. By the time you get there, it's like, really? That's what I'm worried about for this.
Hey, you remember when J.K. Rowling said the last word in the book is Scar?
Well, it ended up being in the last sentence, at least.
Oh, well, that makes it okay then. That's a great ending.
A prime example, ladies and gentlemen, of a British man failing to understand American humor.
This is why they spelled cancel with 2 L's, because we gave him that L in 1776.
Pretty much. It's like the British football game that happened. I'm sorry.
Man, this will be a bigger disappointment than the netball team in New Zealand. Boy, did I say that out loud?
You did.
James gets cancelled 30 minutes later.
Wow. Way to turn around on Friends, Blue.
I was making a joke.
And there's British humor, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
Yes, the ultimate the ultimate form of British humor. No, you.
I don't even like good Monty Python.
These days with your English, you're accused of all these things.
You're cancelled. No, you're cancelled.
It's all about pointing fingers. No, you did it. No, you did it. Okay, fine. Have fun.
As you can see, ladies and gentlemen, we love going off the rails here. It's what makes these podcasts so fun. But it's also what makes editing them a nightmare for Lucky G.
When all else fails, the Americans gang up on the Brits.
It's okay, Blue. You'll have another opportunity.
Screw your tea.
I'm gonna say, Blue, it's okay. You have another opportunity to succeed next year. Unless you end up with this.
Don't worry, you'll save our ass in World War III.
Damn.
Might have been against that reference.
As the one upset for James, he doesn't have to edit this at the very end of it.
Good luck with that.
He's passed that on to me. Well, until he brings the channel back on his end.
Yes, I have given Lucky Chi one for all.
And then, let's see, he'll have to deal with my editing problems.
Hey, Lucky Chi, eat this!
But anyway, can we now get on to closing thoughts?
Yeah, so closing thoughts when it comes to this arc as a whole now that
Don't
it's
you
finished.
mess this up for me. Don't you dare mess this up for me. I'm giving you one last chance, Shonen writers.
Please.
One last chance.
And I totally echo your sentiment, James. I totally.
You failed me with Naruto. Do not fail me with this.
Please. You've gone in the right direction with Demon Slayer. Let's continue that trend.
We don't talk about Demon Slayer here.
I think we
don't talk about Jujutsu Kaisen either. Get that crap out of here.
I think we just killed Blue.
Jujutsu Kaisen is like Pluto. It was once a planet, but now it's not.
Oh dear, chat is going to have some issues with you, James.
If chat listens in on this, she's going to be like, I have a talk with James about this in private. Oh,
My very excellent mother just served us noodles.
What?
No?
All right, guys, let's bring this back down to earth. Earth now.
You remember the
Anywho,
first word they
so-
told you? Eat this. Okay.
My closing thoughts. Overall, the arc, for what it was, it toes the line on being perfect. It's not quite there, like we've discussed endlessly on so far. There are some things we tweak, but overall, it's a good 21 chapter read.
Yeah, I'd say for me, if we're going by my own rating scale, it's like amazing, towing the line of amazing plus. So roughly like 9 to 9 out of 10. 9.5 out of 10 is what I would give it. Now, would this arc be in my top 10 of all time? Again, the series isn't done yet, so that's a question I think I would say for when we get to the end of the series, but it's got potential to be up there. Potential.
Let's see. Should I go with my thoughts now? Or are you still doing yours?
No, that's about it. It's also just an amazing to amazing plus scale for me.
For me, I guess it's a 9 to 9.5, maybe a 9.67 or 8, perhaps.
9.6. Jeez.
I mean, it's just like a near perfect arc for My Hero Academia. I'm not sure if it's like the best arc in the series, but I think it's definitely in the top 5.
I'll say this: if we're talking about starting arcs for each of the sagas, okay, well, I've actually got the arc list pulled up right here. So if we're talking about, say, the entrance exam arc, the provisional license exam, and this one's, I think, supersedes the other two starting arcs for each of the sagas for sure. I'll say that.
But yeah. So I'm not sure. Let's see. I'm pretty certain some might regard the Sports Festival Stain arc, the Hideout Raid arc, and maybe even the War arc as probably maybe even the Villain arc as maybe depending on who you ask as the personal favorite arcs. But I can definitely see this one being amongst the top 5 for most people.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, it also depends on how everything is by the end of the series. I think that's where.
So yeah,
that debate is really standing on that.
But in many ways, at the very least, the final saga arc has the final act saga is off to a very promising start.
Mm-hmm.
Do not ruin this for me. Wait, is that 6 or 7?
That's 6.
Well, you could always add Blue Star.
Yes.
You could always add
Do
Blue
not
Star.
ruin this for me, Blue. There you go. 7 words.
Done.
Because I'm pretty certain if this manga ends up ending badly, Lucky Cheese gonna accuse me of cursing it.
No, I already no. Hey, I cursed you back in April. This would be like, okay, the hunt now begins.
If this gets ruined, Blue Star, I was kidding before about you ruining series. I would mean it this time.
Yeah, because remember, this series is giving James hope again.
Yeah. No, but seriously, don't ruin this.
All right.
You had a good thing going. You have something great going. You can end this so perfectly. Don't you dare take all that development you had, all that amazing moments, and just say, oh, well, that doesn't mean much because we're just going to do this. Oh, yeah, who cares about what Deku went through? We're just going to kill him off anyway. Oh, yeah, who cares what Ochako felt the entire time? We'll just put her with Byakugo.
I still don't understand how that ship's popular.
I don't either. I don't understand. I will never understand how two people in a story could have wide range. 98% of the manga is all about them, but you want to ship the two people that only have one interaction throughout the entire story.
Again,
oh yeah,
guys.
I guess she's strong. Oh my god, they're so in love. Let's make babies.
Okay. Well, here's the thing. Going back to what I said earlier, 5 collages of all the moments in the manga of them. That should tell you something.
Versus 38 pages. Go screw yourselves if you think anything otherwise.
Right?
But really, they end this at a good note.
That's all we're asking for.
Don't give me a bittersweet ending. I don't want a bittersweet ending. I've had enough of the bittersweet endings. I want something concrete this time.
Definitely.
Don't kill him. Don't make him lose his powers. Make him the greatest hero that he always wanted to be.
So in other words, don't do a happy Full Metal Alchemist ending.
That was okay for its time.
Okay.
Because nobody's done that before. At that time. But seriously,
Okay.
I just got my faith back in Shonen again. Don't ruin this. Y'all want me to watch Black Clover? Make My Hero end on a good note.
If My Hero ends on a good note, then James will be like, okay, let's hit up Black Clover now.
Yeah. How about that? That's my bet. If My Hero ends on a good note, I'll look at Black Clover.
What about Demon Slayer?
That one is finished, James. So I'm giving you the heads up there. That one's already done.
I at least have some interest in Black Clover. I don't have any interest in Demon Slayer.
Makes sense. Honestly, yeah. Overall, actually, wait, no, James. Like, so when it comes to this arc as a whole, what's your final thoughts on it?
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10.
Yeah. I don't have any real fault with it. I really like it. My only disappointment is that it's not longer, but I'm wondering if making it longer would have just ruined it. Sometimes the simplest is the best. You didn't drag it out. You didn't pad it.
It was kind of like the right amount. Yeah.
Yeah. And everything else that was missing, you can easily do in the next arc. If you want to.
It's possible.
Or do it as a side story. I don't know. You don't really need to add or take away anything from this one. Would you add a kitty to the Mona Lisa? No! Just because it looks cute.
And on that note, you guys, I think that's pretty much it when it comes to the My Hero Academia Tartarus Escapees arc, or whatever they're going to title this later in the future, because they have a tendency to change the name sometimes. James, Steve, and Blue, it was really great to have you guys on board again for a My Hero podcast, especially for James and Steve being on here for a manga podcast for My Hero for the very first time. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, good to be here.
It's fun to be a part of something again.
Yep. As for the Cursed Child, LemonStarSaber,
Hey!
Wikipedia,
He's just an orange right now. He's not a lemon yet. If my hero ends bad, then he's a lemon.
Wow.
Hey, I'm trying to be nice here. A plus for effort.
I don't know what's worse: the people at karate wanting to use me as a punching bag, or you guys using your verbal words as a punching bag.
Both.
Me using you as a punch bag while criticizing you on your manga choices.
Right.
What?
Roadhouse.
I've never watched Roadhouse.
And on that note, I'm lkmnjh, also known as Steve.
I am BlueStarSaber.
I'm JamesSCassidy.
I'm Lucky Chi 7. Lucky Chi 7, more specific. And we will catch you guys next time after Shigaraki is done with whatever he's doing in this current arc. Plus Ultra. Blue Star, you're cursed.